Two of them are from, two of the guests are from Christian background, Marshall.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
And the two from Muslim background, right? And they belong to Ghana and Nigeria.
And Sierra Leone.
And Sierra Leone.
Yes.
Of course.
He's from
Nigeria.
From
Ghana?
Yes. From Ghana and Sierra Leone.
You are from
Nigeria.
Nigeria? You are from Sierra Leone?
Nigeria.
Again?
From Sierra
I'm sorry. Okay. I know him so well because he came to attend one of our question answer sessions here.
Yes.
And then we met after that and he decided to become an Ahmadi, mashallah. And ever since he's become a very devout, dedicated, participating Ahmadi. Please.
First person.
Your Holiness, I have been thinking, now if the promised Messiah was born in, say, Saudi Arabia or Kuwait, or for that matter, Iran or Iraq, will the animosity that is going on within the other sects, would it have been different?
It would have been worse, you mean?
Would it have been different for the better?
You see, you remember that the Christ, the first Christ, Jesus Christ, when he came, God protected him from the Jewish atrocities by giving him a cover of Roman Empire's peaceful, just government. If the area of Palestine, that is Judea, was not under the Roman Empire and its peaceful rule, one wonders what may have happened to Jesus Christ. So, he who came in his name and in his character, he was provided also a similar protection and canopy by a government which was very similar to the Roman government of that time. In fact, it was a neo-Roman government. The Roman Empire, after it disappeared, came to life again with the Renaissance in Europe. So, British government was a symbol of the same Roman Empire and its rule of justice, which would not permit the Jewish people to take law into their own hands and to punish Jesus even if they believed religiously that he was worthy of hanging by death or worthy of being crucified. I mean, he had earned the punishment of crucifixion. That is what they believed. But they could not do it. That is why when they went to Pilate and Pilate inquired from them the reasons why they are so angry with Jesus, why they want him to be killed and condemned to death, they said it's our law which requires us to do that. It's a religious law which roundly condemns him to death. Then Pilate said, then go ahead and do it, what your law requires. They said, but we can't do it. Under the Roman Empire, it is the Roman law which will be followed and not the Jewish law. So that is why they insisted that the Roman Empire should follow the Jewish, it should acquiesce to the Jewish wish to kill Jesus Christ or murder Jesus Christ, and that is all the fuss about which you read in history. You understand? So God did not save him from crucifixion altogether, but he did keep his promise that you would be rescued. That is why he was taken down alive from the cross and not dead. When I say God kept his promise, which promise do I refer to? Do you know that? Can you link it to any promise of God?
No, I didn't know that, Your Holiness.
So I'm going to explain that, because many Ahmadis from Christian background may also require my help to pinpoint the place in the New Testament where this promise is delivered to Jesus Christ, because directly it's not understandable. I remind you of an observation of Jesus Christ regarding his departure from Judea, and he said that he would leave them and go in search of the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Do you not?
Yes. Yes, I remember that.
Let's see. If you remember your Bible, you should remember this. I don't know exactly the reference to whom he spoke, but this I remember very clearly, that he told his own people that he would leave them one day and go in search of the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Correct?
Yes.
If he had died on cross, how could this promise be kept? How could this promise be fulfilled? So in this promise was implied that God would not permit him to die until he has fully, until this promise of God is fully realized.
Fulfilled, yeah.
And fulfilled by Jesus. By Jesus' preaching to the lost sheep of Israel. That is one thing. The second is that the night preceding crucifixion, Jesus is known to have prayed throughout the night. Even he reproached some of his companions who went to sleep. Is this the night to sleep? Go on, get up, wake up, and pray with me from God, pray back of God that he may take away this bitter cup from me. This is a very significant part of that prayer. If you concentrate on this, you will see the entire edifice of Christianity of the modern times dissipate into nothing.
Yes.
All the claim, all the what should I say? Let me clarify what I have to have in mind. Christianity hinges around the central issue of Jesus' offering his life voluntarily for the sake of the sinful humanity. Does it not?
Mm-hmm.
His own optional choice and a decision based on his free choice to offer his life for the sake of suffering humanity.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes. Absolutely.
Now, what does he do all night when he begs of Allah to take this bitter cup away from him?
Yeah.
The bitter cup of optional sacrifice? Just bring to the focus of your attention this central point, and the whole edifice of Christianity will be razed to ground, and nothing it would be left. No optional willful sacrifice on the part of Jesus can ever be proved from the New Testament. On the contrary, he goes on praying to God, no, please do not. Oh God the Father, don't do it to me. God must have vouched him the promise that he would be saved. He is heard. Why? Because the last cry, which is recorded in the New Testament, before, according to the New Testament, he gave up his ghost, was Eli Eli lema sabachthani. What does it indicate? If God had positively told him, no, you will not be saved, you must be sacrificed like a lamb on the altar of humanity, or the service, on the altar of service to humanity. So your prayer is rejected. How could he reproach God, in such pathetic way? Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani. Oh my Allah, oh my Lord, why have you deserted me? Can you see it now?
Yes.
It's very clear, written large on the wall, that Jesus must have been told by God that your prayers are accepted. The bitter cup is taken away, and you will not die upon cross. So when the time came nigh, and he saw death approaching, before he swooned, he must have uttered this cry in distress.
So, Your Holiness,
Yes.
The promised Messiah, could he have been born in Qadian by design of God?
Of course, this is what I am telling you. It was not an accident, it was a design. Again, the Roman Empire it was who came to the protection of Jesus there as well. Although Pilate washed his hands of the sin of committing him to death, yet quietly, surreptitiously, he remained in league with his Christian friends, and they somehow connived to save Jesus from death upon cross. So that design of God, which is repeated, was not useless even then, was not without purpose. Because if you believe that God had seen to it that the Jewish people have no direct access to the promised Messiah, that promised Messiah, the first one, then if we see that he was practically hanged he was practically crucified. So what was the purpose of that design? Roman Empire in that case failed to do its duty. But when you reread your Bible, then you understand that it was a very different story which took place, different episode which took place at that time. Pilate was in league with Jesus' disciple and friend, Joseph Arimathea. Joseph of Arimathea. Something must have been arranged between them, that is Joseph and Pilate, that Joseph, within a matter of a few hours after crucifixion, approached him and requested him to hand over the body of Jesus to him. The response from Pilate was, already dead? Which means he couldn't have believed it. Why? Because the time Jesus took to remain on Jesus Christ, or they, let me say, reframe the sentence, the total time which we can conceive for Jesus to hang upon cross was not more than 3 to 4 hours. Because in the afternoon of Friday, during a day of the month of fall, the days are squeezed to a normal ordinary size, so that in the afternoon and before sunset there is not much time left. Hardly 3 or 4 hours at most he must have hung upon cross, because before the sun set, according to the Jewish custom, which was accepted by and respected by the Roman Empire, all persons who were hanging by the cross should have, their bodies should have been taken down, dead or alive, no question. No one would be permitted to hang on the beginning of Sabbath, which was after the sunset immediately. right? So now the normal procedure was to let people hang for 3 continuous days and nights. It was not useless. Even then, some escaped death. So as an additional measure of precaution, their legs were broken. Right?
That's right.
So in case of Jesus Christ, something was going on, you know, under the surface, because expressing his doubt, he permitted him. And instead of taking the corpse to the city and making the most of it and appealing to the pity of people and the sense of justice of people, look, this is what you have done to this man. His body was shoved away to some unknown place, a cave, of course, cave-like sepulchre, but it was kept sealed from the approach of common people. It could not have been done by the followers of Jesus Christ, because already they were so weak and defenseless. It is impossible to conceive an infuriated Jewish people, mobs, to be kept away from access to that.
And his own disciples, that's when they deserted him at the same
right.
time. Yeah.
How could they stand between the Jewish people and the grave? So why did the Jewish elders again approached Pilate, demanding for his corpse, his body? They could have gone there and seen for themselves what had happened to him. They could have forcibly taken it away. So from this, one can only infer that there was a very strong pause by the Roman government to see to it that nobody reaches the corpse or enters the sepulchre where it was kept.
Because Pontius Pilate knew the man has no fault. That's why he didn't want to
Not
wash
only
his
that,
hands
he knew that
and
he
said-
must have been alive.
Yeah. He
knew
was
that
trying to save him
Yes,
from the beginning.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, you have said it. Exactly. Right from the beginning. Now, turning to this question, why was Friday fixed for this? And why Friday afternoon? With so little time left between the enactment of crucifixion and the end of crucifixion, and he knew better than anybody else that on Friday afternoon, even the Jewish people would be compelled to respect their own law and permit Jesus Christ to be taken down.
Yeah.
And once taken down, it was never put back. The man, however much criminal he may be, he was never put back upon cross. That was the dilemma of the Jewish people. So his involvement right from the beginning in favor of Jesus Christ is evident. So when the Jewish people required of him to have access to the body, you know, his answer was, go ahead and do it yourself. How could they do it without his permission?
Yes.
He said he may play some clever tricks upon us. He may walk away. He may not be dead. Walk away quietly from the grave and later on tell us that it is a miracle he has shown. He is revived from the dead, while he may not be dead at all. This is the doubt expressed by the Jewish people.
This is the first time I've put my finger on that.
Yes,
But,
you see, and don't lift it again.
Yeah.
Keep it there. You see, so why could they not believe if they had seen him dead, if they had seen him die upon cross? If it is possible, if it was possible for a man of his frugal habits and very strong body of ascetics. Ascetics are very firm and tough. Why didn't they believe?
He was a carpenter. He
Yes,
was
that's
strong,
right,
yeah.
yes. They knew there was something wrong. Something had gone wrong. So they suspected, and Pilate rejected their plea. He said, all right, employ your own sentinels and guards to see to it that he does not escape unnoticed. Why didn't he tell them he's dead? How can he escape? See? Not a hint is dropped. It's amazing how the Christians can ignore these facts, these telltale prints of history. So, what happened was he did escape, and a claim was made by his followers exactly of the nature which the Jewish people had suspected. See, the design of God did win in the end, and the Roman Empire proved to be beneficial to the cause of Jesus Christ. Did it not, after what I have explained?
Yes. The Romans knew a lot of things because when Jesus was handed to be judged, he said he found no fault. And then when they decided they should crucify him, Pontius Pilate doubted why there was a sinner called Barabbas.
That's
why
right.
didn't they bring him for execution to satisfy the condition instead of bringing Jesus Christ, whom nobody thought was doing any fault except preaching peacefully?
Yes.
You see.
And right at the critical moment of his decision making, he received a very urgent chit from his wife, requesting him to take his hands off this innocent man. See? The whole night she was seeing this dream, that my husband is involved in the blood of an innocent person. So she sent an urgent message, frantic message to her husband. And that is why he said, I wash my hands off the blood of this innocent person. But deep inside, this idea must be rankling. It must have been very uneasy throughout. So that is why this conspiracy to save. I am reconstructing the whole event from the scattered bits of the events which the Christian scholars have built. They have collected some scattered bits of evidence from here and there, and they have attempted to rebuild an image of what actually happened. But unfortunately, their image is defective and contradictory. So I have already started work on collecting all the essential data and to verify its authenticity, so that ultimately we can come out with something which can be definitely proved by the facts of history without contradiction. First of all, the date of decision, when this verdict was passed. This is very important, but it is also very confusing, because from some reports it appears that right in the very morning when he was crucified, this decision was given. You see, the night before he was kept in captivity along with his followers. The next morning, this verdict was passed. And before the verdict was passed, all the crowd had gathered and there was so much activity going on. Repeatedly, he turned the crowd back, even turned their representatives out of his court in disdain. And also, his his verdict had to be ratified by the governor, who was the name of the Pilate was, if he was the governor, Herod was the overall supreme viceroy or representative of the Roman Empire. Pilate was not. People don't know that Pilate was just a local governor, but not the overall ruler of the entire area. It was Herod. So according to the Roman law, his decision, whatever it was, had to be approved by Herod. So it was sent from there to the seat of government, and signatures of Herod were to be obtained. All that could happen within a matter of 2-3 hours. It's impossible. And the Romans did not start their court before 9 or 10 o'clock. The style of rule was just like the British. And they wouldn't get up early in the morning for the sake of the Jewish people. Imagine how all these events could be squeezed within a matter of 2-3 years before the Friday. Moreover, there is evidence that this thing took place on the day of, you see, that sacred day of bread. What do you call that? Breaking of bread and eating of the feast. Which feast?
The Last Supper.
The Last Supper. No, that was the day, or these were the days of the Last Supper, who are certainly very close to the event of crucifixion. But according to all the reporters, the Last Supper took place on Sunday or Monday of that week. And the decision was made during those 2-3 days of the Last Supper. So there was still time between that and Friday. Plenty of time. So the approval of Herod could have been obtained, and then a time maybe or could be fixed on Thursday, on Saturday, no, not Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday. They are free days.
So all this time, God's presence was working.
That is.
Yeah.
All this time, God's presence was working, and the fact that Pilate was sympathetic and he wanted to save him somehow also becomes evident.
Yeah.
See? So I have just discussed from my memory with you a few things which are highly essential to be remembered in the reconstruction of this whole episode. But I have got material collected in this regard, and it will also be put into print. I think it has already been in a small book for children which we have written. The Children Book Committee sits with me to finally have the text approved. And on this issue, I told them to follow these pieces of evidence and reconstruct the story as exactly it can be proved to be correct. So from that book you can benefit. It is, what was the title of this book?
Story of Jesus.
Story of Jesus. Their brief references are made to the documents which I have just mentioned. Right?
Okay.
Please.
Also, it is written in the Quran that we have the day of judgment,
Yes.
where we have to account for our sins and our actions. And on that day, we either can go into the heavens or we go to hell. Or in the case of hell, are there levels of punishment? For example, there are people who commit murder, manslaughter, who are, let's say for instance, lead civil wars like the one in my country, Sierra Leone, or who just cheat or tell lies, they ought to have the same punishment.
Would you like me to give a complete detailed account of punishment in relation to every crime and every degree of crime which is committed?
Yes, please.
Is that right? When I was framing this question on your behalf, everybody else was smiling in disbelief. How could you ask me to give a detailed account of each crime or sin committed and the relevant punishment, not only with regard to that crime, but within in relation to all its degrees of intensity? So the question would be, tell us how a liar would be punished, and a liar of this degree and that degree and that degree and that degree, and what will the corresponding difference in the punishment. This is not possible for man to judge. It's impossible. But the principle which should be understood is that God is a just God, and it's impossible for Him to treat every sinner alike with the same. The yardstick of justice remains the same, but the punishment which is meted out is different, and it corresponds with the nature of sin committed against God or against humanity. This is the ultimate principle. So in light of that, whatever judgment God may pass, it would be a just judgment, which evidently tells us that every sinner will have his hell of his own, a hell of his own. It is his sin which will build his hell. And he would be responsible for that punishment and its severity or otherwise. It all depends on what sort of criminal is being punished by God ultimately. And he may also be forgiven. Nobody knows. It says God is not a judge like a human judge. He is a judge who is also the master of everything. Like you sometimes decide in relation to your own properties, it's entirely up to you, and it's not against the norms of justice if you forgive anybody you like because he has sinned against you. But if somebody sins against the state or other people, the judge does not have that authority to forgive anything he likes. It is the law which would decide. So God is the supreme master. This should be remembered. And as such, he can do anything he likes, but he will never violate the dictates of justice. This is 100% true. Right?
So, Your Holiness, this is based on the same principle as Allah says, you love Him completely or you don't love Him at all. Because
no, it is not on that principle. The Quran does not present ideal things which cannot exist in real life. This statement, if true, then the entire humanity should be condemned except for a few blessed ones. How many of us can claim that they fulfill the requirements of this noble principle? It's too lofty for humans to perform, to abide by. So the Holy Quran doesn't say that. The Rasulullah Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam presents a completely different image of God. According to Islam, it is God who lowers himself to the status of the person who claims to love him and judges him in accordance with his capacity. If somebody has a very different social background, which is also filled with crime and everything around, how can his love be the same as the love of a son of a prophet?
Impossible.
Impossible. So this is the answer. God lowers himself out of his mercy and limitless mercy to the place where some of his creatures are found. If he finds a sign of repentance in them, a sign of turning to God, he accepts that in his grace and begins to lift them from there. And the love of God acquires different roles and expressions in accordance with the person who is loving him, who loves him. Like the incident of Moses, you must have read in the Old Testament. He was passing by a shepherd and he was expressing his love to God, addressing him by saying that if I get hold of you, I'll take thorns out of your feet, from under your feet. I draw them out, pull them out, and then I'll wash you and wash your face, wash your hair, and take lice out of your body and your clothes, and I'll wash your dirty clothes. Imagine the type of concept of God which he had, and the nature of love he was expressing to God. Moses, who was passing by, he became infuriated. So he shut him down up. He said, "What do you mean? Do you think God is like you?" And God, if you permit me to say that, shut up Moses. He said, "Who are you to stand between me and my servant, who loves me in all his truth? This is what he knows of me. This is what he knows of the life on earth, because he belongs to that environment. And I was enjoying that. But if you turn to Moses and the love of Moses which he expressed for God, and compare it with the love as it was expressed by Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Moses would appear to be that shepherd. It's only a matter of relativity.
Thank you, Your Holiness.
Yes. Please.
My question is about human beings who've been going through a process of evolution over thousands or millions of years. Was the Holy Prophet...
Over the what?
Over the number of years that we've been in existence.
Yes, billions of years.
Billions, not millions, okay.
In fact, the evolution took place, human evolution, the evolution of life, was finished within 1 billion years.
I see.
But evolution as such of the universe took place about 20 billion years.
Okay. Okay.
So,
my question relates to, have we reached a final the blueprint
No.
of human existence, and is
the
it just a
blueprint
spiritual
of human
progression?
existence is an open question. We haven't seen it,
Okay.
and we don't know how much of its features have already been realized. But we know for certain that the mankind we know on earth, to which we belong, will not live till doomsday.
Okay.
Before that final hour, when the entire universe will be wrapped up into another black hole, mankind will be made to be destroyed by God. It will be brought to an end as a valid coin on earth. And a new form of life would take over from man, which according to God would prove better and superior to the behavior of the earlier man. So that shows the blueprint you are talking about is only a blueprint of a phase on of the evolution on earth. It is not the ultimate blueprint. The Holy Quran mentions that blueprint and mentions as yet unfulfilled portions of that blueprint which have not yet been realized. Right?
Yes. But is that is it still us as human beings and a spiritual progression, or is it almost like a totally different being?
Beg pardon?
Is it a totally different being that will be in our place, or is
it has to be a different being.
Okay.
And the way I understand those verses, I believe that it is something which we cannot conceive because the dimensions will change. You know, if somebody is blind,
Yes.
congenitally blind, do whatever you may, he cannot understand what sight is.
Yes.
Can he? If anybody is deaf, whatever you may tell him, he cannot understand music or the sound. So, as the faculties are added to other faculties, the very nature of the creation begins to change, fundamentally. Suppose there were no people with sight on earth and everybody was blind. Imagine the type of universe they would believe in. How limited the concept would be, and at what stage the human knowledge would stand, because they would not be able to read. It is through writing and reading that human knowledge has expanded so much. So take away just one faculty, and the difference is immense. If you add one or two more faculties which we cannot imagine because we have never experienced them,
Yes.
then visualize what sort of life that would be.
I see.
Got it?
I understand. Thank you, Jazakallah.
Please.
Actually, I have to digress from my main question now. In following
After listening to
yeah,
him. Yes,
so I'm
good.
quite stunned with the answer itself. Then it strikes me then that I should ask Your Holiness that talking about that kind of blueprint for
Yes.
the signaling the end of the world, I should think so. It takes blueprint.
No.
Okay.
He's talking of the blueprint of man, which must have been completed before the creation, even before the creation, which went because all the creative principles which are involved in the creation of the universe and the creation of life on earth and their development and ultimate consummation in production of human life, they have to be before the creative processes began. Because no sane person on earth begins a project without contemplating a blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
See?
We have to think.
That is what he has in mind. Is that right?
Yes, that's good.
Correct.
Yeah, it's following that blueprint then. Is it that is it the same generation as us, or the same generation of humanity, of human existence? Is the blueprint? Is it, or is it? I mean, that follows that. Is it the same kind of religion, or the same spiritual level, or is it the same prophets, or is it the same even up to?
Nothing can be referred to as same.
Again.
Because we don't know what sort of creation that would be which will supersede humans. Right? But one thing is central to the whole issue, that is the purpose of creation. That has always been and will always be for the created to follow the footsteps of the Creator and try to imitate Him. So they will be put on the same course of worship as we have been put before them. Only that much is certain. The rest as to how they will do it and what will be the faculties, what sort of bodies they will have, what sort of mind they would possess, they are all factors which remain in the dark.
And only that it won't have anything to do with the UFOs or the extraterrestrial things that's now coming up.
So
even in
you
line.
continue to try to jump into the dark.
I'm sorry, I didn't know. I was just.
I can see that. It's very consistent in you. You want to find answers to things of which we have no knowledge. UFOs, again, are so far until now, I should say, are just legends and myths and fancies, no more. And if you are not over wishful to believe in UFO, unidentified objects, UFOs, then you should coolly think, where do they come from, at what speed? If they travel the wings of light, and if it takes them 1 year for traveling from their abode in the heavenly space, from there to here and then back, then that 1 year is just nothing. Then they should have been long observed, their place should have been discovered, and because we have reached the corners of the universe in the sense that we have started reading the signals coming from the edges of the universe, which were limited there about 18 billion or 20 billion years ago. So what is just 1 mile compared to 20 billion miles? Compare 1 year to a mile, and this is exactly what the proportion would be. These UFO people should be just 1 mile across, so close to us. Why can't they be detected? It's all tales, either tales or military secrets of some superpowers. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. So back to reality now, actually.
Thank God. Last time.
Actually, I wanted to ask initially about following my other brother's question about.
So he went to unreality because of you. He's throwing all the blame on you.
I didn't mean to. Following the question about the death of Jesus Christ. Right. Actually, in the course of doing some tabligh, we come across some of our Muslim brothers that do believe in the assertion of not the death of Jesus Christ, in the sense that he was taken down to the heavens, and or that if we start to analyze, just like you said, about his death, the myth about the incidents that surrounded the death. Now, the question that has been put to us is, if you, like you said, that Jesus Christ did escape from the cross and then he was taken down still alive in that sense, then where did he go from there? How did he go? And even if you said he now went to the Kashmir or some, he went in search of the.
Let's forget Kashmir for the time being.
Okay.
They think it's very difficult for a person of that age to go to Kashmir under the conditions with no roads. They think there were no roads, while the highways connecting different parts of the world were already in operation in those days. International trade was carried out right up to China. So, but leave that alone for a while. It is a very difficult proposition which we believe in. The proposition in which they believe is so simple to follow, to accept, that Jesus traveled to the middle of the universe, that is the mid-heaven, which happens to be 10 billion light years away from us. So even if he were traveling on the wings of light, he would still be in vicinity somewhere here. It would take him another 10 billion minus a few years to reach the place where he is destined to reach before his return. So the mullah should wait for at least 20 billion years. Because 10 billion going and 10 billion coming. Even if he touches that place and returns immediately for the sake of the mullah. It would take 20 billion years. They say this is sensible and acceptable, but journey to Kashmir is impossible. Right?
Yes.
Thank you. Now please.
Your Holiness, these days you see lots of bargains in the socio-economic world. You see bargains.
This right.
These reduced things that were being sold for say £10 are down to say about £2 or £3, which was inconceivable a few years back. And what I like...
In only one area. Prices are going up in other areas and going down in some areas.
Yeah.
Up and down.
Something like, yeah, fluctuating.
Right.
You know, yeah.
No, not only fluctuating. The trends are different. In the commodities which belong to the electrical and
Yeah,
electromagnetic products,
yeah.
you know, the prices are consistently falling down because of mass production and the greater demand. Every day more demand is created. So,
Yeah.
but in the areas of food, in the areas of
It's
clothing,
going-
etc.,
it's
they're going
going
up. This is a
up,
constant
yeah.
trend. Yes.
Okay. Now, what I wanted to, if you can balance or equate for me to understand, is if it's got a relation to do with the Quran, chapter 2, verse 277.
Mashallah, you have,
Say,
mashallah, you have gained a lot of knowledge about the
say-
about Islam
say-
since your conversion to Islam last year. Huh?
yeah, last year.
Well done.
So that Allah is saying that, believe it or not, interest will be abolished, and He will cause charity to be prevalent or be the rule of the world.
Which translation have you read?
I beg your pardon, you?
Which translation have you read? Because I don't find any such claim, any such observation or statement in the Quran as you are referring to it. The Holy Quran, what it says is that God desires or requires you to promote spending in the cause of God and spending in the cause of the poor.
Yes.
And God requires you not to indulge in interest or usury, because it is usurpation of poor people's rights. So God roundly condemns usury and interest, whatever name you give it, and promotes free spending in the cause of Allah.
In other words, the zakat.
Zakat as well and other
Yes,
things. And if not that, at least you give a loan to God, in the sense that you spend in His cause hoping that you will be rewarded.
So,
But the warning is of a different nature, which I think you might have confused that with the statement you made, no, with the idea you have expressed in your statement. The warning is that if you do not abstain from indulging in usury, then be ready for a war with Allah and His Prophet. And that war would be launched against you. But where is that war? Where do we see it? 1400 years have passed since, and yet we do not see any war to have been launched by Allah and His Prophet against usury, even in the Muslim countries. But if you delve deeper into the message of this verse and the import of this verse, then you will realize that wars have already been fought on this basis. And Allah says, we warn you of a war with Allah and Prophet, which means you have violated the dictates of God and the dictates of the Holy Prophet. consequent from that, you are going to suffer from wars. If that is the meaning, if it is true, then this is exactly what is supported by the history of wars. We have already witnessed 2 major world wars, and each of them, when analyzed by experts, have been caused by a system of capitalism and usury. I don't want to go into the detail, but you know that this is exactly what they believe.
I get the logic of it.
Yes. Yeah. So, during the the past economic crisis of a few years, all experts started expressing fears that maybe we are again heading towards a global war because of the economic crisis, which is inevitably caused by the capitalist system of usury. Right?
Yeah, it's become have these mass suicides by religious other denominations have anything to do with this end of the world coming?
It has to do with the distorted image of God and godliness presented by the Christianity of modern times, or the Christianity which has nothing to do with the religion of Jesus Christ. Whenever you require people to believe in imaginary things, whenever you distort the image of God and how He relates to His people, then you open the door for cults. If this is possible, why that is not possible? If God can bear a child, can give birth to a son through a human mother, He can lift, if He can lift him bodily, why can't He lift others? See? So, one distorted belief gives birth to other distorted beliefs.
Yeah.
So, the cults are born out of this.
Also, my question is about unity and peace in Islam.
Unity and
peace in Islam.
Right.
Because Islam is built on peace and unity. And in fact, when we are saying or extending greetings, we say Assalamu alaikum. But I have discovered that it is wrongly used in the Muslim world today because there is no peace and there is no unity. The Muslim wars are fighting themselves like the Gulf War. Therefore, in fact, enriching the Christian world and making them to even make mockery of Islam because we are not united.
Correct.
Also, what recommendations can you please make for peace and unity in the Muslim world?
You see, you can't impose any of your ideas, views on a people who reject you. Can you? If it's a plan of Allah that He will not enforce Himself upon a people who would not like to follow His dictates, who am I to enforce my desires and my solutions upon a people who consider me outside the pale of Islam? So, there is nothing we can do for the world of Islam except to try to make them see the light of the day by telling them that the Imam has been appointed by God, which was to be appointed by God, has been appointed and has come already. So, if you want peace, follow him. And the proof that you can get peace by following this Imam can be presented in the form of the Ahmadiyya Jamaat, which has become global now.
Indeed.
Which is found on all continents and all parts of the world. They are people taken from people like them, disorderly, fighting among each other, all scattered, and they are being molded into one single whole under one caliphate. The unity of God is displayed in practice like nowhere in the world can it be displayed. This is peace. Are you not at peace with you after becoming an Ahmadi?
Yes. It's very true.
What a difference there is between Ahmadi's belief and thoughts and his personal experiences in relation to others around him who are scattered lot, fighting with each other, living for themselves. There is no higher goal to be served. If there is, it's only a legendary something which has no reality. They're excited to wage war against the West by the mullahs in the name of Islam. That is the only course of action they propose to them, which is a course of mass suicide. There is a different type of suicide which is taking place in the world of Islam from the one you mentioned in the world of Christianity. These movements always end up in total frustration and loss of the total power of the Ummah, of Muslim Ummah. Go back to the factors which created the Gulf War and war between Iran and Iraq and the internal war between Afghans and Afghans, and now and later on a war between Russia and Afghans, and then turning back to an internal war between Afghan and Afghan.
How confusing.
This is their holy war. Can it ever bring peace to the world of Islam? Rising of the Egyptian Muslims against their own governments. Rising of Algerian Muslims against their own government in the name of Islam. This is chaos.
Indeed.
It has nothing to do with Islam. But Ahmadiyyat knows what peace is. Ahmadiyyat feels and breathes unity of God. Is that right or wrong?
It's right.
From your own experience, you can say that.
That's right, yeah.
Did you feel that after becoming an Ahmadi Muslim? That you have come to peace? At peace with yourself and at peace with the general concept of the universe and things?
Yeah, there is a lot of differences that, but I say to myself always, it's just the beginning.
Of course it is the beginning, but if you have a direction to follow, the beginning should also be oriented in that direction. So just to say that it is beginning is not enough. The beginning would definitely indicate where you are going. So, my question was, in relation to this aspect.
Oh, it's
And have you started beginning to feel that you are moving towards peace?
I will reserve my answer, Your Holiness.
No. Do it, give me freely, even if it's not.
I'll tell you, person-to-person basis sometimes,
Achha.
as soon as possible.
No, but when you avoid the answer on television, then people may suspect that your answer is total negative.
It's negative.
And as such, the principle that as you get closer to God, you do get peace, is falsified. This is the question which is bothering me now.
I am, but
Because once in a person-to-person talk in my office, you told me exactly the opposite of what is appearing today.
that is correct,
Correct?
Your Holiness. That is very correct.
You said
Yes.
you have found peace at
And-
last.
Yes,
Right or wrong?
yes, but
there
with
are
a
other things,
qualification.
Yes,
Yeah.
but they need qualification.
Yeah.
That statement requires qualification.
That's right.
With that we end this session. I'm relieved now. I thought you had changed your mind. Something else had happened to disturb and destroy the peace you had attained. Yes.
If Your Holiness will permit me, you remember I have some accounts to show you
I remember
sometime.
that.
Yes,
That's right, yes.
And when I do that, then I will, with all due respect.
Oh,
Yeah,
I now understand your problem. You're talking of a completely different thing.
Yes, I think so.
Completely different thing. He is at peace with the ideology he has accepted. He is at peace with the wisdom which he has gained through Islam. On that there is no gainsaying. but he is not at peace with what he has achieved himself in relation to the promises he made me. Correct?
Your Holiness has a foresight.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So this is much better, and you come to me and we'll discuss, inshallah. And
All right.
Right. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, sir.